This is Jarrod Horak, and in this video I'm going to recap the 2023 Kentucky Derby. Now stay tuned to my YouTube channel the remainder of this week. Into Preakness week, I'm going to have plenty of Preakness related coverage. So keep checking out my channel if you're interested in that. And if you're interested in my annual Preakness Day full card at Pimlico, you will find that full card along with some other products on Preakness week at therunawayrhorse.com on my sales page. You can go over there for more details if you're interested in that full card. And you can also purchase my Preakness Day full card at horseracingnation.com and todaysracingdigest.com. Speaking of todaysracingdigest.com, if you go over to their website on their Kentucky Derby page, you'll find all of my Kentucky Derby reports. I did a recap of the Kentucky Derby last week. I did a recap of the Kentucky Oaks as well. And then I did an early preview of the Preakness Stakes. You can read all of those articles at todaysracingdigest.com on their Kentucky Derby page. Now we're going to recap the Kentucky Derby. And this year there were 5 scratches, and I think that really changed the outcome of this race. Now one of the horses, Continuar, was a long shot from Japan. I don't know that he was a major player in this race, but there were some major contenders that scratched, including your 2-year-old champion Forte. He had won his last 5 starts. He had 4 Grade 1 wins. He won the Florida Derby, and he had a foot bruise the morning of the race. They ended up scratching him. Your Wood Memorial winner, Lord Miles, had to scratch from this race. Practical move for trainer Tim Yakteen. He had won all 3 of his route races. They were all graded stakes races, including the Santa Anita Derby. And then Skinner, your Santa Anita Derby and San Felipe Stakes show finisher, was training well, and he was a nice closer for trainer John Sheriff, so he was a contender. So Skinner, Practical Move, and Forte were solid contenders in this race, and they all came out. And the surprising thing, that was the first surprising thing, that there were so many scratches. The second one was the contentious pace. If you looked at this race on paper, you saw some horses did have some early pressing speed, and you figured the pace would be honest in an 18-horse field going 1.25 miles. But I did not see another speed duel developing, because you go back to last year's Kentucky Derby, Rich Strike got in from the also eligible list. It was a complete pace meltdown, and he rallied from far back to win it. I didn't think that was going to happen this year, but that's exactly what happened again. Now, it wasn't shocking that Verifying from post 2 ended up being aggressively handled under Tyler Gaffalione. He had an inner post, and they had to get him out of there and make sure that he wasn't shuffled back, and he was able to maintain early position. But it was definitely surprising to see Jose Ortiz send Kingsbarns out of there. Now, Kingsbarns showed very controlled speed in that Louisiana Derby that he had won. He got out there, he set slow fractions, and he was able to go wire to wire. In his previous 2 starts, he did not go to the front. So Kingsbarns was a horse that had plenty of versatility, and he was able to slow it down. So the fact that he went out there and dueled with Verifying was very surprising. And they went 22.35 for the opening quarter, 45.73 for the half. So that opening quarter was really quick again. And then that half mile was pretty quick as well. And they were finished. When you saw those fractions and you saw that speed duel, you just knew a closer was going to come out of the pack. Now, a horse that sat a good trip, but he was too close to the pace, was Two Fills. He was up there in 5th place, and then he worked his way up to 4th. And then at the mile mark, he took over. With that speed duel, those speed horses were done. Two Fills moved inside, took the lead, opened up. He had a clear lead. And then Mage from the back of the pack was able to run him down. And he rallied from 16th place. He was 15-1. And the pace just took its toll on Two Fills. He probably would have won this race if the pace wasn't so quick. And he just couldn't hold on at the end. But he did hold on to finish 2nd, half length in front of Angel of Empire. And then Disarm ended up finishing 4th. Now, the most disappointing aspect of that was I did not hit my Kentucky Derby wagers. My suggested wagers I had to change multiple times because of the scratches, and I sent those out to clients. But I had a superfecta. I used 2 superfecta tickets. One, I keyed my top choice Tapit Trice on top. The second one, I used multiple horses on top, including Mage. But I needed Angel of Empire to run 2nd and Two Fills to run 3rd. If that would have happened, I would have hit the superfecta. That superfecta for $1 ended up paying over $15,000 in the Kentucky Derby. So I was bummed there that I was not able to come up with that winning ticket in that superfecta. But for the Kentucky Derby, Mage ran a quality race. Javier Castellano gave him a good ride, but it really did set up for an off-the-pace runner, and he was the one that was able to take advantage and run a quality race. Now, he was an unraced 2-year-old, and he had only run 3 times in Florida. He was very good in his career debut at 7 furlongs, his second career start in the Fountain of Youth Stakes. He did not have a great start. He was wide. He got a good learning experience out of that one in the Florida Derby, broke slow again, made a wide premature move to the lead, and then Forte had run him down that day, just like Forte won the Fountain of Youth as well. So Mage, without Forte in this race and a pace meltdown, was able to take advantage and get the job done. Two Phil's gallant second place finish. I think overall, if you look at the whole, every runner in this race, I think Two Phil's ran the best race overall, the best complete race in this race. The pace was fast. He was up on that pace. He got probably the lead too soon there, and just gallantly fought off Angel of Empire for the runner-up spot, because Angel of Empire got a beautiful setup in this race. He was the favorite. Everything that he wanted happened here. He was able to be out in the clear. He got the pace help hit that he wanted under Flavien Prat. He got the trip he wanted. He just could not go with Mage or catch Two Phil's at the end. And then Disarm ran a quality race. He was 27-1. Getting back to that longer distance helped him. He ran a good race in the Louisiana Derby at 1 mile and 3/16. They had to cut him back to 1 mile and 1/16 in the Lexington Stakes to qualify and get enough points to run in the Derby, and they did. And he was able to run 4th here. He was one of my live long shots that I did in my live long shots video, and he ran a decent race. And then Hit Show ran a quality race here for trainer Brad Cox under Manny Franco. From the inside post, he was sitting close, probably too close to the pace as well. He was 8th early, and then he was 6th. He worked his way up to 3rd at the 1 mile mark, and he was right in the thick of things. And then he weakened a bit late. He ended up finishing 5th of 18. Nothing wrong with that effort from Hit Show. And he's one that if he shows back up maybe in the Belmont Stakes, he's run well in New York before, you could consider him. Now, Derma Sotogake, I thought he ran a quality race from Japan. He was looking at him, he was wanting the pace to be slower, and he wanted to be up on that pace. He wired the field in the UAE Derby, and he was strong that day. And he was one that he wanted to sit an outside stalking trip, but he had a not a great start. He was back in 14th. This was not the kind of race flow that he wanted, that he would be successful in. But overall, he was hardly embarrassed at all. He ended up finishing 6th of 18. Not a bad effort at all from Derma Sotogake, considering everything, where he wanted to be up there tracking that pace outside. Pace was way too quick. He was much further back than he's used to being, and he just kept chugging along and trying to the end. Tapit Trice was disappointing in here. He was my top choice, and the race did set up for a closer, and when I saw the fractions, I thought he could have a decent shot in here. He was last after a half mile, and he started to just slowly move up, but he was just never able to really get involved. And he ended up finishing 7th in this race. He wasn't embarrassed. He's one that kind of ran the Mo Donegal type race that Todd Pletcher trainee had run last year, and then he ended up winning the Belmont Stakes. And Tapit Trice, very good pedigree. I could definitely see him bouncing back and running much better in the Belmont Stakes. You look at trainer Todd Pletcher's record in the Kentucky Derby, I think he's something like 2 for 67. But then you look at his record in the Belmont, he's won the Belmont multiple times. He's a strong Belmont Stakes trainer. For whatever reason, his horses just seem to underperform in the Kentucky Derby and then overperform in the Belmont Stakes. So if Tapit Trice shows up in the Belmont, certainly have to consider him a solid threat in that race. The next horses, Raise Cain was the next one, finishing 8th. Then Rocket Can, a confidence game. He was tracking that pace. He was up there, but you just knew he was going to come up short. He was training well, but it was just too much of an ask. His first start since February 25th, when he won the Rebel Stakes on a wet track. And that day, he got wiped out after that race. He was just very tired. They ended up not running him in any more points races. They did not want to train him up to the Kentucky Derby. They wanted to run him again. It just took him too long to recover from the Rebel to get another prep. And then, so now the Preakness, this could serve as a prep for the Preakness for him. But we'll have to see how quickly he recovers, because it took him a long time to recover from the Rebel. And is he going to be able to recover quickly and then run back in the Preakness? We'll have to see. Sun Thunder was next. He was no threat. He added blinkers. Didn't help him here. Mandarin Hero wide trip. He got bumped by Tapit Trice, never really recovered after that. He ended up finishing 12th. Reincarnate was chasing the fast pace in third. He weakened. Kingsbarns, I mentioned him. He got caught in that duel. King Russell was hung out wide from the outside post, never got involved. Verifying wilted from that speed duel. Well, they basically wrapped up on him when they saw that he was finished from the speed duel. They just wrapped up on him, and they knew his race was over. Jace's road, he was up on the pace briefly. He weakened. And then Cyclone Mischief, widest of all, never got involved. So that's a look back at the Kentucky Derby. Again, for the second year in a row, we had a pace meltdown and we had a closer take advantage. I think that Mage, that was a much better horse than Rich Strike. That was a huge surprise there. And the Mage was a surprise in this race for more than any other reason, that he was that unraced 2-year-old and he was making some mistakes in his races in Florida, like in that Fountain of Youth in Florida Derby. He was making some mistakes there and he wasn't able to win those races. And in this race, he broke slow again, but that did not hurt him because in the Kentucky Derby this year with that pace meltdown, you could rally from far back, and that's exactly what he did. So now heading up to Pimlico for the Preakness Stakes, Mage. I want to see which other horses come out of the Kentucky Derby and go there. And then the new faces, those new shooters as well. And that will be my next video. I'm going to do a Preakness preview. I'm going to talk about the horses that are pointing to the Preakness Stakes and look at the pace scenario and see if we think that Mage can repeat that Kentucky Derby victory in Baltimore. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment if you like this content. And that will wrap up my recap of the Kentucky Derby. And I'll be back with a Preakness preview. And until I see you next time, good luck at the races.